Introduction of Sonorant Sound. Sonorant is an articulation in which there is only partial closure or the air gulf of the mouth or nose without resistance. Such articulations, usually voiced and often frictionless without a noise component, can share many phonetic characteristics with vowels. Definition of sonorant sound. In phonetics and phonology, sonorant is a speech sound that is produced with a turbulence or pull in the sound channel. This basically means that a squeeze sound like the or a burst like the is not a low sound. For example, vowels are sonorant. Other consonants like and o, other consonants such as t or s, restrict or pull to cause turbulence and are also non-sonorant. Apart from vowels, the phonetic categorization of sounds that are considered sonorant includes approximation, nasal consonant, beats, and vibration. In the sonority hierarchy, all sounds other than fricative are sonorant. Therefore, they can form syllable nuclei in a language which places the distinction on the level of independence. See syllables for details. Sonorant in phonetics is one of the nasal, liquid, and glide consonant characteristic by a continuous resonant sounds. Sonorant has more acoustic energy than other consonants.
Okay, I want to continue explain about type of sonorant sounds. So, what kind of a sonorant sounds? A sonorant sounds have nasals. Nasal is a consonant that is produced by directing air out through the nose instead of letting it out of the mouth. In the English, have two kind of nasals, which is first bilabial nasals. You can read what the definition of bilabial nasals. The production of the syllable initial M, M is produced by lips. Begins with the lips together, the vocal cords vibrate, and air exits through the nose. Eventually, the jaw dropping that is part of the lips and opening the mouth produce release, restoring the normal flow of air through the mouth. And then the other kind of nasal is alveolar nasals. Alveolar nasal, you can read what the definition of alveolar nasals. The production of the syllables initial N begins with the tongue pressed against the alveolar back. The vocal cords vibrate. Nasals, the syllable initial it is You can read It in English is ng. Is produced in a similar way except that production begins with the tongue pressed against the velum with a completely nasal initial sounds. And then the sonorants have liquids. Liquids. Clear L. And then dark L. The final syllable sounds L is referred to as a veiled lateral alveolar approximation, which means that in addition to the tip of the tongue being brought near the alveolar ridge, the back of the tongue is also raised toward the velum. The example of clear L is loaf, live, lows. That is example of clear L. And the example of dark L is the example of dark L is little, full, and belfry. Yes, that is example of dark L. So the kind of The other kind of liquids is non-lateral liquids. In the syllable's initial R, it's R, as in a rabbit, run, and borrow, it is referred to as a retroflex approximation. The tongue is brought forward in a circle back towards the roof of the mouth's retroflex. And then the next is Sonorant Sounds have glides. 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 You can read what the definition of glides. Glides have two kinds, which is first, labiovelar glide. Sounds production begins by puckering together to form a narrow circular opening. The lips then relax and the jaw drops, opening the mouth. This sounds wuh. Yes, it's wuh. As in wheel, why, and quick and flower. That is example from labiovelar glide. And then the other kind of glides is palatal glide. You can read what the definition of palatal glide. The palatal glide is G. It's G.
Example of sonorant sounds. English has the following sonorant consonant phonemes such as O, N, and other. Ancient Ireland has one of the most complex sonorant system record in linguistics, with only 12 coronal sonorants. Other coronal, nasal, and rhotics have fortification and palatalization in contrast. There are also and which have a total of 16 sonorant phonemes. Shown in Polish, voiceless sonorant has a strong tendency to revoice or undergo vortition. For example, to form fricatives such as ch or o. Example is noted in connected and continuous speech in North American English. T and ch are usually sandwiched to ch following the sonorant, including vowels, when followed by o vowel or syllable.
The comparison between obstruent and sonorant. The first, an obstruent sound, is a sound production which involves a closure of the vocal tract that interferes with airflow. As regard to this definition, based on the manner of articulation, some sound categories which can be definitely labeled as obstruent are stops, fricative, and affricative. Meanwhile, a sonorant sound is the absence of radical obstruction in the mesogitter region of the vocal tract. Based on this characteristic, some sound categories based on the manner of articulation, which are labeled as sonorant, are liquids and nasals, included vowels, and glides into sonorant. The conclusion is, sonorant is an articulation in which there is only partial closure or the air gap of the mouth or nose without obstructions. Such articulations, usually voiced, and often frictionless without a noise component, can share many phonetic characteristics with vowels. Sonorant in phonetic is one of the nasal, liquid, and glide consonants characterized by a continuous resonant sound. Sonorant has more acoustic energy than other consonants. Sonorant has three types, namely nasal, liquids, and glides. Each of the types here is divided into several categories. Nasal is divided into several parts, namely bilabial nasals, alveolar nasals, and velar nasals. Meanwhile, liquids is divided into several parts, namely labiovelar glide and palatal glide. Also glides that have some of the properties of vowel and some of the consonants. The vocal tract is unobstructed for glides, like for vowels, but they are shorter and less sonorous than vowels.